On December the 5th, 2021, Subaru Park was the venue.
Take two.
All right. We're not sure how this is good. There it is. All right. Well, this is live New York City FC.
This is definitely live radio, that's for sure.
All right, here we go. It's live stream. I'm going to start all over, and this is what engineering on your own will produce sometimes. So here we go. On December the 5th, 2021, Subaru Park, and there you see it. How beautiful is that? Was the venue for last year's Eastern Conference Final in Major League Soccer. And New York City's Brazilian winger Thales Magno connecting on the game-winning goal, 88th minute, against the Philadelphia Union, and City goes to their first MLS Cup. Today, New York City and Philadelphia will meet for the first time back in Chester, PA, since that moment, which led to what was the most successful season in New York City history. And now the fade. Hey, we are. Matty Lawrence, I'm Glenn Crooks, and we called that game, and it was there were so many interesting circumstances. New York City winning in penalties to get past New England to get to that spot. And then Philadelphia, which had earned the home field advantage and played so well during the regular season. And then COVID hit the Union, and they were down so many players. And that was really the story going in. But they had the 1-0 lead. Maxi Morales tied it up. And then I don't know if you remember this one, Matty, but this was a moment that does live in New York City FC history. Now Morales on it. Edge of the circle, Philadelphia side of the pitch. Maxi now will drive it to the left. Well-placed ball. Bizo there. So is Goody. Goody has some room. Here's Magno. It's the go-ahead goal from Gudmundur Thorarensen. It's 2-1 New York City FC with only 2 minutes left in regulation. In the Eastern Conference Final, you wonder, will that be the moment that sends New York City to their first MLS Cup final? And it's Thales Magno, the reserve striker here in the second half. And it happened. And what a big goal. And for him, Magno himself, it took him a while to get going last year. But once he did, he was a reserve in that match. And, one of the big goals in New York City history.
Yeah, he's still a young boy even now, but slowly but surely he's worked his way into NYCFC's style of play, the football and ethos, and certainly I think he's become acclimatized with New York City itself. He certainly seems to be enjoying driving his nice car around, buying nice clothes and things like that, as is his want. But yes, certainly he is looking much better as a player, and I think that was the catalyst. I think that goal, certainly aided by Bizo, how not to defend as a right back, but that helped.
Well, notice Bizo's no longer the regular fullback either. Harry L has taken over.
But yeah, for Thales Magno, it was the beginning. And look, I think the beginning will start here for NYCFC. I think very, very soon he will be moving on, whether it's Europe, whether it's a bigger team, a River Plate, a Boca down in South America. I'm not trying to get rid of him just yet, but he is that talented. I think undoubtedly, if they can get another 12 or 18 months out of Thales Magno, I think it's inevitable that he will be moving on.
In a moment, we're going to bring in Dave Leno, who does the radio commentary for the Philadelphia Union, to kind of set up what this match means to Philadelphia. New York City FC, a single point ahead of Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference standings. Earlier, LAFC, they were up 2-0 late. Is that the final?
Yeah, I think
LAFC over the New York Red Bulls.
I saw it, yes.
So Red Bulls stay in there. A spot in the Eastern Conference, coming off the win over New York City in the U.S. Open Cup on Wednesday, but then having to fly out to LAFC, down 2 players, Aaron Long and Luquinhas, who had scored a goal against New York City on Wednesday, and Long, who played so well at the back. So having to fly all the way out there, having played a midweek game and then playing without 2 starters, we feel it was MLS health and safety protocols, which prevented them from playing in the game. And so LAFC's goals both came fairly late, and that was that.
Both late, both looked like counter-attacks. I know I only had my eye sort of on and off the match.
Well, you're prepping for this match, which is good. I appreciate
far too
that.
high line held by the New York Red Bulls, which they certainly didn't do against NYCFC, and they were punished a couple of times. Look, I think we know what MLS is all about, the amount of travelling. I think it just caught up with them. Yes, the game in midweek was US Open Cup, but that was a tough match for them. And it's really no surprise. LAFC were a very good side as well. But travelling, extra minutes, no real surprise for me that both LAFC goals came late on. No surprise that New York Red Bulls lost as well.
No. As for New York City FC, their bench a little light. Thiago Martins suffered that ankle injury against Colorado, and it was fairly severe. He could be out for up to a month, at least the next 2 games, according to Nick Cushing. We're going to hear from the New York City FC coach in a little bit. We're also going to hear from the Philadelphia Union coach, Jim Curtin. But right now, let's hear from this guy, the Philadelphia Union. He's a pregame, halftime, postgame host when they're doing their regional television broadcast. But today he's the radio play-by-play guy with Sebastian Letou. How's your French? Have you been working on your French with Sebastian?
Well, Matty, it's not as good as my Spanish, but I'm learning every time I'm on the set with Sebastian, and it's good, but not as good as his. It's great to be with you guys.
Well, Dave, I think one of the stories today, I said, New York City's bench is sort of light, but that doesn't even come close to comparing to the Philadelphia Union bench, where we're going to see 2 reserve keepers on it. And we've got the 4, we know the U20 players, which is a great story, including Quinn Sullivan scoring all those goals for the U20s right now in CONCACAF qualifying, and such an important event. But it's really leaving Jim Curtin with the fewer options. And then there's this situation with the fleet of foot striker, who really is a guy that can stretch the fences. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yes, Sergio Santos is not here. He will not play in this game. He's still looking for his paperwork and his visa, trying to get a green card. Jim Curtin saying to the media midweek, guys, that there's really no timetable. They were hoping to get him back for this game. It's very questionable if he will even be for the Chicago game on Wednesday and even the Columbus game next Sunday. So that's definitely a tough one, especially with losing also the young under-20 players. How well Quinn Sullivan's playing, Jack McGlynn's been starting, Brandon Craig's also on that team as well, Paxton Aronson as well. So a guy like Chris Donovan, who was from Union 2, the Union had to make a trade with Chicago to get the top spot in the waivers position to get Chris Donovan from their Union 2 team. He makes an appearance off the bench. He could be an option. Obviously, Corey Burke has a couple of goals. Supporters here at the Union have been up and down with Corey. They want to see him obviously make more of an impact in the game. But that has definitely been a position of need for the Union. And maybe today we will see Michael Uwa get his first home goal. He has 2 on the road. But tonight he would like to do that here in front of home fans against your New York City team.
Matty, before your follow-up, here's Jim Curtin early in the week about this Sergio Santos green card situation or visa issue.
Yeah, really frustrating one. Initially when we let him go, we thought it would be a 1-week process, and we're at week 4 now, and he's still not in the country. So it's not good. It makes us a little bit thin. Sergio his speed to change the game and is a weapon. But to not have him in training for 4 weeks now really, really hurts. These green card situations, I think, are hard all over the world right now, and all over our league in particular. So it's one where he's not here, and I'm sure he's frustrated, and obviously we're frustrated too. So it's tough. During the green card process, once it gets to the final stage, is you give them your passport. I mean, it's gotten to a point where if he had his passport, we would have just had him fly back without the green card, because at this point, it's been so long. So. He doesn't have his passport. He has to wait and go through that process now. So it's a frustrating one, I think, for everybody. But the reality is he's not back yet, and that hurts us. It hurts us as a team for sure.
So he doesn't have his passport. Can't get it back. I mean, it's really difficult, especially. And I think in the Philadelphia Union, now this is back-to-back games here at Subaru against New York City. Certainly not close to the absences of a year ago with all the COVID cases, but still, they're really shorthanded, and that's a guy who could stretch a defense. But You described it well before the cut there, Dave, but it's a huge loss, I think.
It is, and Sergio has a goal this year. I think it's been up and down for Sergio this season, guys, and I would say that a big theme that New York City fans should know about the Union has been there's been a lack of continuity amongst the strikers. We've only had 1 or 2 games where 4 of our top strikers have all been available, and remember, Michael Ua has been out for a considerable amount of time due to injury with a quad strain as well. He will make the start in this game tonight, but he only paired with Carranza starting for the second time. I think it was first since the Nashville game from last game in the 1-1 draw with FC Cincinnati. So our goal scoring has come from our number 10, Daniel Gazdag, this year, and also Carranza is doing a nice job fitting in from the Inter Miami days. Now with the Philadelphia Union, seemed to work out on a nice deal with Ernst Tanner. Defensively, we're just like New York City, where we've only allowed a league-low 11 goals, which has been terrific. Jose Martinez has been arguably the best number 6. The question for, I think, a lot of Union supporters and pundits around the league, the transition moments, whether it's counterattacking and trying to get those late runs behind your center back today. Can the Union do that and get promising goal-scoring opportunities amid Sean Johnson? That needs to happen often. It didn't happen in the first half in the FC Cincinnati game. It happened better in the second half, but we need to see more of a complete 90-minute performance, in particular, I would say, from the midfield all the way up to the strikers today from the Union.
Dave, has it really been goal scoring is the only problem this season? Defensively, as you say, they're very, very sound. I like Glesnes and Jack Elliott. I think they're a pretty formidable centre-half duo. But at home, only 3 goals in the last 4 games, 4 straight draws. Obviously, 7 draws in 8 games in MLS as well. It seems that there's just not that ability to transform, I guess, good performances into wins. Unbeaten, which is great. I loved it as a player to go on unbeaten runs, but 8 draws out of 15 games. Is it really just the goal scoring that's the problem?
Yeah, I think it's more, Matty, like to your point, it's the trying to find that second goal. I think the Union are doing a nice job at getting that first goal, but it's trying to put teams away. And that has been hard to come by. And I would say, to your point, which is very accurate, too many points left on the table. I think it's fair to say, even though New York City unbeaten in 9 league games, the Union 1-0-7 unbeaten in 8. But again, all those draws, which lead MLS, is certainly not good enough from the Philadelphia Union standpoint. And I would say the build-up play, the transition moments, I think like FC Cincinnati, to your question, did a really nice job with that back 5, negating the Union's outside backs in Wagner and Harriel getting advanced. A lot of teams this year against the 4-4-2 Diamond have been playing a back 5 against the Union. Pat Noonan, now the head coach of Cincinnati, was assistant coach under Jim Curtin here at the Union, knew them very well. So the question is, how does New York City today negate those outside backs coming forward? Because I think when Wagner gets advanced, puts a minimum of 3 to 4 crosses a half, and get 3 to 4 guys a commitment running in the box, that's when the Union are at their best. So I would say that there haven't been those runs that I would think on the flanks like we've seen in previous seasons so far. And I would also add, furthermore, lastly, is like the direct play. I think Glesnes and Elliott can hit that 30, 35-yard ball over the top. And like you said, a guy like Sergio Santos can run in behind Corey Burke as well. Can guys like Carranza do it? Maybe. Ua certainly can. Got to get Gazdag on the ball more. But I would... It's been a lack of, I would say, that build up from... Glesnes and Elliott will bring up the ball. They'll be comfortable on the dribble. But then what happens from Martinez to the 10 and then getting Bedoya and Flock more involved offensively, I think that has been just inconsistent linking with the strikers.
And they play this diamond, the 4-4-2 diamond, and that's something that Jim Curtin has now become accustomed to. That was an Ernst Tanner addition, really, right? That was not maybe necessarily Curtin's creation. And describe how that diamond works and how it's effective for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair comment. I think, first off, that it's a commitment from all 10 outfield players, Glenn and Matty, to defend. And that starts with the guys up top, like Ua and Carranza perhaps tonight. Getting back and defending. Gazdag with his press cues is really good. Like we saw a few seasons ago. I think Brendan Aronson at a young age, when he first started to get minutes at the 10, he did so well with those press cues, and everybody reacted well. But then it's guys like you'll see in this game on the edges of the diamond, like Bedoya on the right and Flock on the left, their commitment to run up and down the flanks. And they form such a great partnership, Bedoya and Harriel on the right, and then Wagner and Flock on the left doing well. Martinez is a guy that does have freedom in the diamond to advance forward and get high up past the midway line, but you'll see him often getting back and almost creating a block of maybe 5, sometimes 6, if you get the support of Flock and Bedoya as well to aid that back line in front of Andre Blake. I think it's a team that likes to play narrow and vertical in the diamond, but I think even though there's no natural wingers like in a 4-2-3-1 system, which was the system, before Ernst Tanner, I think you're still see a commitment to get into the wide areas. I would say we haven't seen that enough lately, which attests to all the draws. So want to play vertical, want to play narrow, still want to press high. It's a team that likes to press off goal kicks. I'd expect that today amid Sean Johnson and your back line. But again, it's a team that I think likes to work quick, but I think it's not giving the ball away too much in the midfield. We saw that a lot in the FC Cincinnati game. I think that needs to be cleaned up today against City in this game.
What can we expect from Daniel Gazdag? I don't think he's a superstar. He's not talked about a great deal, but 7 goals and 3 assists. Also scored against England for Hungary in the friendly when Hungary obviously won 4-0. He's a good player. What do we actually expect? What can our listeners and people who watch the game expect from him?
Yeah, well, I think pressing has been great from Gazdag. I think, it goes back to my comment a couple minutes ago about the lack of continuity with the partnership there. When Ua was out, it was maybe Santos in with Carranza, or it was Birkin with Carranza. And that's been missing. And then obviously some of the reserves coming in off the bench. To your question, how does he run? How does he get himself in goal-scoring opportunities? You're not going to see a ton of shots from outside the box. I think if he can get to right inside the penalty area, but almost to the edges of the box, he puts himself in great situations to score. He also will drift into the flanks as well to hit in some impeccable crosses and try to link up with a couple late runners to peel off the back shoulder of some of your backs tonight. But how he's scoring, he's getting in the box. He had a nice bicycle kick this year for a goal. He's getting some shots, like I said, that are just peeling off the back shoulder of a center back and just creeping in. So he's a guy that can create a late run if like Bedoya hits a cross from the outside or Kai Wagner on the opposite side on the left. I think he has freedom to drift like a Maxi Morales. Does he distribute like Maxi does? Is he lethal on the set pieces? Maybe that's not fair to say. I think Maxi might be more dangerous at that. But I think his finishing has been advantageous for the Union, where they haven't gotten the strikers, except for Carranzo's 4 goals, to produce. But I think in this game, watch him drift all over the place too, and also try to find those pockets maybe behind your defensive midfielders today. See if guys like Glesnes, Martinez, and Elliott can find Gazdag in transition. I think if you can get him on the run and moving head up, going right at goal, I think it would be a great spot. If you get him deeper in possession, coming back, Matty and Glenn, I don't think that's fortuitous for the Union. If he's coming deeper in possession, trying to find the ball, I think that favors New York City in this game. Keeping him higher up the field to link with Ua and Carranza will be better off. And his finishing has been good, and I expect that, again, to attest to the 7 goals he has this year. All
right, David. We wish you all the best in your call as the Sideways Subaru Park. That's pretty cool. And radio play-by-play man Dave Leno for the Philadelphia Union joining us here to share some of the insight about how the Union can get away from all these draws. Dave, thank you so much and have a great call.
Yeah.
Dave Leno with us. So it's evident these ties. I know talking to any coach where it's draw after draw. Yeah. Can you imagine? You're unbeaten in 8, and 7 of them have been draws. And you compare that to New York City. I'm unbeaten in 9 in MLS, and 8 of them are victories. So you see the point disparity right there, and that's why New York City's in first place.
Yeah, look, it's 10 points from 8 games. What's that? 10 points from 24 points, 10 out of 24. Yeah, it's not good enough. But as a player, I think you like the fact that you're unbeaten. Yes, granted, it would be better to win 4 games and lose 4 games. But to be on that run, to still be confident, to only have lost 1 game this season, I think as a player, you're relatively happy with that. They've got 4 clean sheets in 8 games at home as well. They're going to be tough to break down. But you're right. Look, you've got to get away from those draws. And as I say, really from points point of view and from Jim Curtin's point of view, he'd rather 4 wins and 4 losses because it's more points, obviously. But as I say, as a player and going on those runs, I think you just prefer being unbeaten. I really do. I think it just buoys you with confidence.
So it's actually 7 wins and 2 draws for City over that 9-game unbeaten. And the most recent draw was against Colorado game we did at Yankee Stadium, 1-1 game. And in that game, though, unfortunate injury, Thiago Martins, the center back for New York City FC, the designated player center back, who had really moved into a position of becoming number 1 in front of Maxime Chanot to play next to Alexander Collins, and talked to interim head coach Nick Cushing earlier this week about the status of Martin.
We don't know the time frame as yet because we're still in that initial period where we're looking to see how he reacts to treatment. It's no secret he's walking around with a boot on still, so the ankle is in a place where he hasn't even got football boots on. So I don't expect him to be back for the next 2 games. Hopefully it won't be too long. I'm sure the medical team soon enough will be able to give us a full diagnosis on 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Hopefully it's not longer than 4 weeks because he's been a really important player for us.
Yes, that's a big loss. And Chanot is back, and what we noticed about Maxime Chanot, and we know that he has to play with this mask on for the remainder of his career after that serious injury, serving internationally for Luxembourg. And it was friendly fire. His own teammate accidentally elbowed him in the left eye, and we saw him constantly adjusting. So he's still getting used to that. Although, Chanot played okay against the Red Bulls on Wednesday.
He did. He played okay. I think he was playing angry. That's what I think he was doing.
Yeah.
He got. I know he was the skipper, but there was the first instance where he sprinted 20 yards and was wagging his finger in the face of the referee. That was after 5 or 10 minutes. So, yes, he's got a point to prove. Yes, the mask is definitely a problem because he's constantly, as you say, adjusting it or taking it off, putting it down, picking it back up. It's definitely playing on his mind, that's for certain. I'm assuming he's going to have to wear this for the rest of his career, but looking at him playing it with it on and actually playing with the mask, if there's a possibility he can take it off, he certainly wants to do that. I know that we saw, was it Edgar Davids used to play with actual glasses on, kind of the sports glasses that you see, I guess, racquetball players wearing. Whether that's an option, I don't know. I'm not on the medical stuff, but the mask he's wearing is definitely causing him a problem to a certain extent because the amount of time he spends not thinking about the game and thinking about the mask, that's just factual. He was constantly maneuvering it around.
His very first game with the mask, remember, it was the U.S. Open Cup against Rochester, and he had a headed goal because that was one of the things is how is his heading going to be, since that's certainly one of his strengths, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So that remains to be seen. I have this vision of him just tearing it off and throwing it to the sideline. But I don't think that's going to happen, Matty, because I think he's doing it not just for himself, but his family as well. The doctors have said, listen, you're taking a risk if you don't wear this thing.
We're all risking injury every time we go out there on the field, but normally it's ankles and knees, and you can normally deal with whatever happens. But yes, we're talking about eyesight. We're talking about the sight in one eye specifically. I think he will be wearing that. Whether this is the right mask for him to be wearing, I don't know. Whether glasses are an option, but whatever it is, he has to get used to it and get used to it quickly. I think Thiago Martins may be out for a little bit longer than 2 to 4 weeks, just the way Nick Cushing was talking there. The extent we saw what the injury was, the way his ankle was fallen upon as well, totally non-malicious. It wasn't meant at all, but it looked really bad at the time. And it wouldn't surprise me, and again, I'm no doctor, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was more strained towards a 4 to 8 weeks. Let's hope not, because Martins has been playing fantastically well. And as you say, he's now number 2 centre-half. Carlin's 1, Martins 2, and Chanot number 3.
And one thing that Cushing talked about, we haven't seen a centre-back on the bench. We don't have the bench yet today to expose to you. We're waiting for the official announcement of the lineups. But he talked about Tavon Gray as a possibility moving into the middle as well. And with Anton Tinnerholm on deck, He will be on the bench tonight. We do know that. He will not be in the 11. He'll be on the bench. And then we look to see if Tinnerholm, right here tomorrow night, New York City FC 2 plays Philadelphia 2. So you wonder if Tinnerholm is not involved today, or if he's involved very little, will he get a run with the 2 team here at Subaru Park tomorrow? That remains to be seen, but interesting to hear Cushing talk about pushing Gray into the middle if that became necessary. The other Thiago Andrade, got red carded. Matty was all over it. It was a headbutt. I missed it initially, saw it on the replay, and it really put his team in a tough spot. And I asked Nick Cushing about that this week as well.
That conversation was done via translator, but he reached out to me first, if I'm honest, because that's the type of guy that he is. He's a really good boy, and he's aware he made a mistake. And I think in that moment, as a young player, you have to recognise that those mistakes can't be made. I'm a believer in life that everyone makes mistakes, some small, some big, and when you make those big mistakes, you have to learn from that, and that's life. You have to learn it, you have to fix it quickly, and you have to move on. And he has done that. There will be some consequence, but we'll keep that in-house because there has to be. But he's reflected on it. He's disappointed. He's apologised to me. He's apologised to the team, and he's assured me that he'll learn from that. And that's life. He needs to learn from it and move on, because he's a really talented boy that has a real high work ethic, and that's what we want in our team. So, mistakes are made and we move on.
Learning that he'll be on the bench at the start of this one, and New York City FC, that's the head coach, Nick Cushing, who early on in his taking over the team for Ronnie Dyla, it's been a bit difficult. First, you have the 21-day layoff, so you come back and play Colorado with a little rust, and then you've got a derby match, which goes a little bonkers in the second half, and you have a player sent off when you're only down 1-0. And remember, Matty, it was Tyler Magno and Maxi Morales ready to check in at that moment, and Thiago would have been down anyway.
Yeah, look, I agree. We all do make mistakes, and certainly on the football field, we're all going to make more than one mistake in every single game. But I think the manner of that mistake, Glenn, the unprofessional manner with which you got sent off, to lose your call like that as well, to headbutt somebody underneath the nose of the referee. Yeah, I get what Nick Cushing is saying, but you should not be doing that in the first place. That rush of blood to the head, it was pretty ludicrous. I said it at the time. Let's hope he has learned from it. Let's hope we never see it again, because I think if you saw a repeat performance of that, it would almost start, not quite time to cut your ties, but if he did that again, you'd be incredibly troubled as a head coach or manager. Let's forget Nick Cushing, 2 games under his belt, 1 draw, 1 loss. He'll be desperate to get that first win. It really will be. Maybe not playing on his mind, but after such a good run of games until Ronnie Dyla left, he'll be absolutely desperate for the 3, won't he?
New York City leads the series 8-6-2, but Philadelphia won at Yankee Stadium earlier in the year 2-0 on goals by Gazdag and Bedoya. But that was a stretch where New York City, not at their best, in great part due to the congestion of the schedule. All right, before we leave, Matty, I want to show you my MLS All-Star selections. I want to get your thoughts on that. And I'm not very fond of individual awards. I like team awards. I like team first. So I went in there and I said, I'm going to pick a team that can best beat the Liga MX All-Stars.
Okay.
So that's what I did. And I think they're all very good players. From New York City, I've got Sean Johnson, Alexander Collins, and Tati Castellanos. I don't think anybody's going to be able to dispute that.
No.
And Kai Wagner is my Philadelphia representative at left back. Anytime I've seen him play, I've always said, boy, he could play on my team.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Defensively, he's very sound. He's a very good one-on-one defender. He's very quick over the opening few yards. And also at the other end of the field, he delivers. Dave Leno just told us that he'll put in 2 or 3 dangerous crosses in every single game. He's got 5 assists this season, so I think that's proving it. He's a wonderful player. I like that team. I would always have Castellanos as my centre forward. I get that Ferreira is also a very good player.
Yeah, Ferreira has been absolutely, and Lewis Morgan. And I'm thinking again.
Like Lewis Morgan,
I do too.
well.
But we're gonna beat the Liga MX All Stars. Imagine the pressure that group will put on the back line.
Oh no, it's a great team. I
forward.
like that, and especially Carlins, and obviously as an ex-centre half, Carlins and Zimmerman. It doesn't get much better than that. Granted, if Miles Robinson was maybe fit, would you put Robinson alongside Alex Carlins? I don't know. Or would you go with the US lineup and have Zimmerman and Miles Robinson there because they play together each other? If you're just talking about winning a specific game, I think I would go with Robinson and Zimmerman just because they're used to playing together. I still think Alexander Carlins is the best centre half in the league, but if we're talking purely a one-off game and we want to win it, I'd like to play a centre half pairing that know each other and have that relationship.
I like that part of the discussion rather than just picking, because some of the nominees, and there you see the New York City FC lineup is out, just released. The nominees, when I went through it, there were a number, including players from New York City, the Red Bulls, and Philadelphia, who were not all-stars. That's about all I could say. So I don't understand how they're getting nominated. So it to me, it tarnishes the process a little bit, because you go in there and there's this drop down of 20 players for attacking mid. I mean, there aren't that many all-star players at that position in Major League Soccer. I'm sorry. That's just my thought.
I do like your team, though. Your team's a good one.
Well, thank you. How do you like the New York City team here today against Philadelphia? Sean Johnson in goal, the back four. We noticed Gloucester in for Amundsen. This is another interesting thing. We wondered where Nick Cushing might be a little different than Ronnie Dyla and sort things out differently. He's calling that a pure Gloucester versus Amundsen. And I have this feeling that maybe Cushing favors Gloucester just a little bit. It's just a feeling I have. Nonetheless, that's a coach's decision today. Chris Gloucester starting in place of Malde Amundsen, who did start and played through about three-quarters of the match against the Red Bulls on Wednesday and was replaced by Gloucester. And then in the midfield, it's Alfredo Morales and Nico Acevedo. Keaton Parks is not in the 18, and Parks pulled himself out of training on Thursday. We don't understand, and it has something to do, he just had some discomfort. It's not anything personal. It's something to do physical, but I don't think we should ever forget that Keaton Parks came off this real serious surgery to repair a blood clot, and he's been going at it, and I think he knows his body better than anybody, I think that's what happened.
I was just about to say that professional sportswomen, they're the people who know their own body, and certainly Keaton Parks is somebody, as we know, is somebody who wants to play in every single game, as most players do, let's be honest. So I don't want to say it's something serious, but it's certainly serious enough for him to pull himself out of training and to make himself unavailable for selection today as well. It's a little worrying, but you're right. Maybe he's just getting those little strains as he is coming back from that serious injury. And it's other muscles, other aches and pains throughout the rest of his body. So, yeah, look, it's a big shame. I really like Keaton Parks. I think he's probably the best centre midfielder in the team for NYCFC. He's not there, but Acevedo and Morales have worked well together, playing as that sort of dual six in previous games. So
exactly,
it looks like a good team. It's a good lineup. For me, the one thing we need to see more of today is more from the fullbacks. I don't think we saw enough against New York Red Bulls. Granted, nobody played particularly well, but we need to see Gloucester and Tavon Gray providing the width, putting crosses in as well, because it certainly isn't going to be Santi Rodriguez and Tylus Magno. We know they're going to be inverted. We know predominantly they will cut inside as well. That's what they like to do. I want to see Tavon Gray and Chris Gloucester overlapping them and getting crosses in.
Well, that was one thing on Thursday that certainly was a part of training. They were running patterns, and the idea was to take it from one side of the field to the other, try to get the overloads. It's familiar to Ronnie Dyla, but this pattern play, as I understood it, hadn't really been utilized in training since preseason. So I think Nick Cushing maybe recognized that it's something that they really needed to review and repeat, and let's see if it has any benefits here today. There's the Philadelphia lineup. No surprises there. Not much to work with for Jim Curtin today, with all those U20 players away. None of those U20s are first choice, first team starting players, but they've all got 9 or 10 appearances, spot starts, and that certainly impacts your depth.
Look, the starting lineup's great. The starting 11 may not great, but it's a good starting 11. It's very solid. Every player in that team has a relatively big amount of experience in MLS. Daniel Gazdag, as we know, wonderful goal scorer from that 10 position, arrives late into the box. But what we hope, and I know this sounds a little horrible, we hope for 3 or 4 injuries, because then they're absolutely threadbare on the bench, as you mentioned. So many players missing. Santos obviously back home trying to sort his green card out. The under-20 players missing. So yeah, strong starting 11. The bench is very, very minimal though.
How do you like that view?
Oh, it's a great view.
It really, whenever you come into the stadium and we get up into our area, and this is our view. It's really great. I was hoping a boat would go under the bridge at some point during our pregame live here, but nothing doing. We've got the keepers warming up below, but we haven't seen the teams yet. It's a later kickoff today. 6:25 is the kickoff, so that'll be the reason for our adjustment in our start time, too, for our live commentary, which will be 6 p.m. Eastern on the New York City FC Network. One final thing, Matty. I thought this is one of my favorite promos in a long time. The chicken bucket eating contest. This dude, Joey Chestnut, you know anything about him?
I do, yeah. He wins the hot dog eating.
Hot dog, and he's like,
"These are pride of America."
Yeah, but there's a league called Major League Eating. It's an actual league. I couldn't believe it. But anyways.
What do you mean you couldn't believe it? Of course you can. It makes perfect sense.
Hey, up on behind us on ESPN before the LAFC New York Red Bulls game came on, they had, air hockey. There's competition for that. Then they went to someplace and these women were doing slippery steps competition. They were trying to climb steps and get to the top, and then it was a competition. What is going on? Is everything a competition?
I don't know what is going on. We're definitely becoming more and more unevolved. That's for certain.
All right. Well, Matty, the competition here is at Subaru Park.
I'll go get the hot
afternoon. And yeah, let's get a hot dog before we start. And it's Philadelphia playing host to New York City FC. It's a key Eastern Conference match with New York City, just a point ahead of the Philadelphia Union. New York City still has that game in hand and will still have that after this. But Nick Cushing, third match as the coach, and he's still waiting for his first victory. Let's see if he gets it today. So I'm Glenn Crooks, Matty Lawrence. Chris Sakonis will be with us on the broadcast as well, our halftime host and post-game host on the New York City FC Network beginning at 6 p.m. And I put this out in the tweet, Matty. I don't know if you saw this, but and I stole this from
you muted.
I stole this from Mike Conti, the Atlanta United radio guy. So look, we have to prepare you. This is a network broadcast, so you should be watching. You should be watching the game and listening to us, your hometown team. That's what I think.
Yes.
So I'm going to help you sync it up. I'm going to give you the clock. I'm going to count down the clock here 2 or 3 times so you can sync the audio to the video more easily, because I know even my wife will say, man, that's a pain to try to sync it. I said, well, okay. I mean, it's not worth the time for your husband.
We are definitely worth it. And you are definitely worth the time. I maybe not, but you are.
So anyway, I'm going to do, and we're preparing you for next year. Apple TV, they will have this drop-down feature where you can get your hometown broadcast, which will be the radio broadcast because of the new contract and how that's working. We've talked about that a little bit. Anyway, that's it. That's my piece. And peace, be safe, and enjoy the game.